got to say to you, Claire, is united we float, divided we sink.
And with that thought in mind, Claire assessed her seaworthiness. Well, I asked the obvious questions.
So, David, the rust bucket, why?
Well, I had classic cars before, but I always liked boats. And this is great because it does the best of both.
I can't believe these doors will be watertight at all. And the engine's on the deck.
People love it. It's something people immediately recognise with the ropes and the propellers and the fenders on the side.
The main thing is that this car is all about show. You know, it's got all these curves at the front, the points, the fins at the back, white wall tyres, classy. So it's one huge cosmetic job, this one.
But why not get yourself a nice classic car and a nice classic boat and have the best of both worlds?
Oh, this is the best of both. You can get in the car, you can drive to the river, no faffing around with trailers and slipways. You're just in, off you go, and then we can spend some time on the river.
And a lot of people on the bank calling out the emergency services.
That has happened, yeah. We do occasionally get chased by air sea rescue helicopters.
Oh. And nothing I've seen about this car, boat, whatever it is, has reassured me. There's a gearbox down there somewhere and all sorts of other bits and pieces. And who knows what that is?
It's just great fun to have it all in one package, all in one box. It's wonderful.
Well, let's see what Claire makes of this package. So, Claire, what do you reckon?
Well, it's got an awful lot of potential.
You're reserving judgment, then?
It's also got an awful lot of rust.
It has, indeed.
But I've got a man in mind who can give me a hand with it, so...
Vaguely optimistic?
Vaguely optimistic.
Well, David, here's the deal. We'll take it away and do our damnedest to restore it to its original beauty.
OK.
But you won't be able to see it until it's done.
OK.
Could you manage to live with that for a little while?
I could do that, yes.
Well, Claire, I'm off to find out a little bit of the history of these things.
Right, I'll get her loaded up.
See you later.
I've got mixed feelings about the Amphicar. It's not a thing of great beauty, and I know that at some point or other I will hate working on it. But swimming in it at the end, come on, that has got to be fun.
My tentative research tells me that our Amphicar has a military history, so I'm checking out the library at the Imperial War Museum.
It says here that the Mad Hatter, or genius behind the amphibious car, was in fact an engineer called Hans Trippel. Well, in 1932, aged 24, he was obviously an amphibious car nut from a very early age because he designed his first floating vehicle. He called it the DG6, and it was first used for the German Forestry Commission on big private estates.
Trippel's versatile invention was spotted by the Nazis, who encouraged him to develop it further. Hans was even summoned to Berlin to show off his latest creation to the Führer.
Once again, war accelerated engineering excellence and progress. And in fact, us Brits played a part in pushing forward the production of the Amphicar.
When the RAF began bombing German bridges, the Nazis stepped up production immediately. Trippel took over the Bugatti factory in Molsheim in France, and 1,000 vehicles were produced using Opel, then Tatra engines.
No DG6s actually survived the war, but when peace was declared, Naughty Hans was imprisoned for 5 years by the Allies for his services to the Nazis. And so his amphibious car dreams were temporarily sunk.
With Suggs deep in academe, I'm taking our wreck of an Amphicar to Lance McCormack, this week's expert.
When I turn up with this swimming car, I can't wait to see the look on Lance's face. I only hope he's got a sense of humour.
Lance McCormack is a hot rod fanatic, but when he's not racing around in his 1929 Ford Highboy hot rod, he's showing off his pride and joy. A 1950 Mercury Custom he calls Planet Voodoo. A Rolls-Royce trained panel beater with 25 years experience in classic car restoration. Whether it's a hot rod or a 407 Bristol, Lance is the man for this rusted bathtub.
So, is this restoration project a goer or not? A boat or a car that has only had cows for company for the last few years? An engine that's all seized up with salt water? And bodywork that's rusted to the core?
If this was any other car with this amount of rust on, this is really beyond economic repair.
It's clearly not going to be plain sailing.
I'm afraid that I'm going to have to condemn this tank.
motor vehicle, it's a 14-foot inland motor cruiser. And the question is, will our expert classic car restorer Lance McCormack be able to fix the boat bit too? Claire's just about to find out.
Well, Lance, what do you think?
It's a vessel in more ways than one, isn't it? That's for sure.
Come on, what do you think?
Where do we start? Look at this, on most cars it's enough to have some metal on there. This thing's got to keep the water out, and that's clearly not going to do that.
What are we flooding in here, then?
I mean, this is the original, so this to me is a mid-50s Volkswagen Beetle tank. If this was any other car with this amount of rust on it, this is really beyond economic repair. I can bring it back from the dead, but typically if this was a Rolls-Royce, a Bentley, if this was an MG, we'd go and look for another one. And there's nothing sophisticated about the construction, it's just that obviously it's done some service underwater. Now, the underseal on here, on a normal car, that'd be, say, soundproofing and rust-proofing, but on this, it's a bit more than that. This baby's got to float. So what I do, we get Mark in and we get him to strip off all this. We'll check for cracks or rust or anything in there and get it rolling.
OK.
Look here, you've got propellers. You know, it's all this adds up in...
Fun!
Yeah, it's neither one thing or another, is it?
We've just got to remember it is a boat and not just restore it as a car.
The Amphicar model 770 is a motley mishmash of German car parts. A VW steering wheel, the petrol tank is in the bonnet with the luggage. Mercedes seats, suspension and taxi wheels. A Porsche 356 gearbox and a specially designed Hermes drive for the twin propellers, which you switch over to when you hit the water. There's an extra large radiator and the exhaust is high up above the waterline. The greatest oddity, though, is the engine, which is placed in the boot behind the rear axle. It's British.
This is the engine.
Which is...
Triumph Herald.
Why don't you choose a Herald? You've got a Porsche 356 transaxle on there.
I can't work out why they've got an English engine in here. I mean, it's a good, solid engine, but it's nothing special.
I've done some of my homework, and I know they've mated this to Porsche 356 transmission. I mean, you've got like an aristocrat, and then you've got this sort of boat anchor, really.
Snob.
OK. Right.
So with Mark, Lance's assistant, helping out, we begin stripping the car down.
Let's go.
The first job is the hull of the ship, looking for weak points that might leak, and I'm starting at the stern.
Oh my God.
What?
State of it, man.
Oh, I know. Where it's just paint, it just peels off, that's fine. But here, the filler,
Yep. That's,
massive chunks of it.
This is new. They've made up this section of weld on very, very badly. It's gone underneath. They've lapped it. As a result, this barrelling has happened from the distortion there.
Beyond repair, we're cutting out the back sections of the wings and making replacement panels from sheet metal.
Drop this down, see?
Hence, the crash course in panel beating.
You'll get there, you'll get there. That's it.
Start with singing then.
This gizmo crimps the edges of the piece, which tapers the metal for a fine finish.
Nice and even. All your steps are even. Don't start doing anything too radical. OK, let's take it out now. Right, you see what I mean?
It's getting there.
Body repair is Lance's speciality, and this is the posh way to do it. Most amateurs would do what the previous owner had done, bodge and make do with filler, but there are no shortcuts for us on this job. This baby's got to float.
Are you finished on that, Lawrence?
Yeah, ish. There's a couple of little bits of undercut in the weld there, but I think given, it's not sort of Pebble Beach. What we've got here, see, I'm going to leave the weld bead there, so it's not criminal.
I can't see any donuts, that's a good thing.
That's good. That's an actual butt weld,
Right.
see. So it's waterproof and it's now become part of the body.
Excellent. Good job, mate.
OK.
Let's put the kettle on.
Good.
But the problem that is really worrying car nut, but boat virgin Lance, is the boat safety scheme. a very scary boat MOT that the Amphicar will have to pass.
Look.
Right, so not only does our bathtub got to have an MOT, it's also got to have a boat test.
That's right, and this is where it's a very grey area for me. Look, this is just the checklist for the fuel.
So what's the main problem with it then?
The main problem is this is just one area. I haven't got a clue what their real requirements are. It's not like just...
Okay. Right, we'll cut through all this. Let's just phone the guy and get him down here.
Without the certificate, the project will be sunk.
Hello.
Oh, hi, my name's Nick Allen. I'm from the Boat Safety Scheme.
All right.
And I've come to examine this wonderful Amphicar of yours.
Suddenly, me and Lance are feeling we've bitten off more than we can chew.
The engine, you'll need to connect that up with a pipe conforming to BSEN ISO 7840.
Did you get that clear?
Oh, yes. We weren't planning on fitting just any old bit of hose pipe.
Well, I've seen that on plenty of boats, any
You
old bit of
haven't?
I have indeed, and obviously that can't be used.
This could get tough, and he hadn't even seen the state of the fuel tank in the bonnet.
Oh dear, you've got a fair bit of rust here on this tank, and the rest of it over here, got a bit of rust here. I'm afraid that I'm going to have to condemn this tank. It is not good enough to refit.
I think we've just opened up one huge can of worms on this.
I don't think Lance and I realise that everything on this car, boat thing, whatever you want to call it, is completely rusted. So it's all hands to the pump. Lance's assistant, Mark, is given the engine to unseize, whilst Lance gets on with cleaning silt from the carburettor.
It all appears to be there, which is a good thing. We don't have to go hunting for any hardware. We just need to jolly good clean it and the kit fitted to it.
Meanwhile, I'm off to see if I can get a petrol tank that will meet the stringent boat safety specifications.
Mickey! Hello.
Lance has sent me to a friend of his who makes bespoke MG petrol tanks, Metal Mickey.
I bought the original, but I've also got plans for the modifications needed for a new tank.
Right.
So it's got to pass as a boat as well as a car.
You got it? Right, I'll come round.
Metal Mickey has been making handcrafted petrol tanks for over 30 years.
Press that pedal down and it'll operate.
It's a lethal bit of kit, isn't it?
It is.
Powered on by elbow grease, we move quickly onto the fly press.
There we go, another of your fantastic machines.
Another old machine, yes.
Amazingly, this tiny workshop is the mecca of handcrafted petrol tanks. It's Metal Mickey's products that supply the juice to classic cars all around the world.
Give us the shape we need.
It's hard work, isn't it?
It is.
Suddenly, this petrol tank is beginning to take shape.
And the last fold coming up. Okay. That's our final bit.
Oh! Ah! That's what we're going to do with our tanks then.
The next stage is to spot weld the edges, strengthen the body with grooves, and put the baffles in.
That stops petrol surging.
So when you corner, you don't end up with everything going to one side of the
That's
car.
right. And strengthens the tank as well.
A spot of spot welding, and it's time to test for leaks.
I can hear
It's
something.
hissing. It's like fixing a puncture on a bike.
That's right, that's all it is, yeah.
A bit of patching, and we have our bespoke Amphicar boat safety scheme approved tank.
Bye, Mickey.
Okay, Claire, see you soon.
Thank you.
All right, with it.
With Claire tanking, I'm scouring the film archives, and I'm finding out much more about our Amphicar's salubrious past.
After the Allies released our inventor Hans, gone were his plans for world domination amphibious style with the Nazis, and in came the dream of a floating sensation. Yes, our Amphicar. Let me show you a little bit of archive I've found. And check out the man's hairdo and the fantastic music.
This is the fish out of water turned inside out.
The rear wheels, it was claimed, doubled perfectly as keels, and the front wheels were ideal as rudders. The wild fins at the rear weren't just a frivolous fashion, but functional, there to keep the waves from flooding the engine. The Amphicars were sold in the UK by Sidney Marcos, a luxury sports car dealer in London. And I'm meeting up with our owner, David Chapman, to see if young Sidney's still in business.
Well, it says on the Amphicar brochure here that their showrooms were at 33 Sloane Street.
And if I'm not mistaken, that's right here.
It is, Subs, yeah.
But it's not an Amphicar showroom now, is it, mate? It's a handbaggery. In the swinging 60s, the Amphicars were sold next to other luxury cars and were simply an expensive toy. For the same money, you could buy an E-Type Jag. Perhaps that's why only 100 were sold in Europe and the company went bust after 2 years. I'm presuming that they wouldn't have actually tested the cars in a huge bath in the basement here.
No, we're only a mile from the Thames, so I think what happened is you signed your cheque, jumped in the car, popped down there and dipped the headlights.
And if it sank, you still had time to cancel the cheque.
Yeah, hopefully the ink was dry.
So we strolled down to the Thames to see where the Amphicars were baptised. Well, here we are at the very spot that they would have tested our little Amphicar after it came out of the showroom. But I must say, it doesn't seem to be any particularly interesting history about our car.
No, I think our car had a sheltered life for an Amphicar. It was bought by a couple of gentlemen farmers in Essex. But I do know there was an Amphicar that once tried to cross the Straits of Gibraltar. And I think there may be an interesting story there to research, Suggs.
That does sound like an interesting story, and maybe it's a lead I shall follow up.
OK.
Well, David, I'm going to leave you now, and hopefully the next time I see you, that old rust bucket that I last encountered will be looking in some kind of shape to be going back on the Thames.
That sounds great, Suggs. Looking forward to it.
Following Lance's orders, I've come to see Gary the Stitch, who's a wizard with the sewing machine, and can sort the seats out. Hello, Gary.
It's all right, Claire. Whoa.
Sorry about that.
It's all right.
Look what I bought you.
Excellent.
The rest of the Amphicar seats. Lance says you've already made a start on it.
Yeah, got a door panel already made up to give you some idea of the colours and what it's going to look like when it's finished.
Oh, it's looking really smart. We're not going for the red anymore, are we?
No, we don't think that's the original colour. So I've gone on the internet, found some pictures of how it should be, with all the measurements of the flutes at the top.
Oh, brilliant.
Where the pocket should be, the colours.
Lance, when we're going through the car, he's a bit snobbish about the Triumph Herald engine, but everything else is sort of quality German marks. Is there any evidence on the seats?
Yeah, the seats are German. They've used the imitation horsehair. That's what they use on the Porsches and Mercedes on the early stuff. But we're going to replace all that anyway, so they'll be nice and padded out and thickened up a bit. We'll be doing them later in the cream, but today we're just going to do that other door panel for the other door, which you can cut and machine up and hopefully not hurt yourself.
Using the old door as a template, we replaced the weathered, non-waterproofed hardboard with marine ply.
Got to make sure you mark every hole, because that's the hole that locks the door shut. So the
Better
door
get that right.
Yeah, don't want the door flying open.
Next, it's out with the scissors to cut the specially selected marine vinyl ready for sewing.
So you just get on with it. Whenever I do any needlework, I dither for ages, especially that
Needlework?
first cut.
So this is
What do you
that
call
door
it then, if it's not needlework?
trimming.
Trimming. That's just a macho word for needlework.
All right.
This is the frightening bit. Gary's giant 1945 original Singer with its frightening needle.
There we go.
Yeah, come on. I've got my safety boots on. Still toe cap boots on for needlework. Sorry, trimming.
Trimming.
But I'm soon flying, or at least I think so.
There you go.
Whoa.
It slipped.
Bit off. Must have been the steel toe sector boots. No, we'll do something with it. We'll
See, we
mark-
should have pinned this bit.
I thought you was professional.
I'm not professional.
You told me you done needlework.
I do. Well, running up a few pairs of curtains at home is not the same as being professional.
Practice makes perfect, so being a real gent, he gives me another go.
What? What's wrong with that? I don't do it for a living.
No.
There's nothing wrong with that.
One more.
If you've got a problem,
No,
just,
no
just
problems.
keep it to yourself.
Third time lucky.
There you go, it's not that bad.
No.
It is actually. It's not that bad.
What? Are we going to use that one?
Only if the boat's going like that.
Sinking forward
Yeah.
first.
Now the proof's in the pudding. Stapling this masterpiece together.
All right. Do you want to have a look at that first?
I'm afraid to. You're going to start laughing again. Can't put that in it. It's bloody awful.
We'll sort that one out later on.
don't feel you're respecting my work, Gary.
No.
I think Claire should stick to the engineering and leave the trimming to the skinheads. Back at base, our patched-up body had been in the paint shop, being primed and pampered to get the best out of its sleek 60s lines. This will be the last chance Lance has to check it out before painting.
It's moved on a long way since I last saw it, isn't it?
Wow.
How's the wings? Now, this is arrow straight. I don't know if you can remember this wing, but it was had a long way before it got here. That's beautiful. You must have been working through the night.
But what colour are we going to paint her?
My God, man, there's red,
And there's red.
Red or not, she's still a car and a boat. Not only will we have to get her running again, but we're going to have to find a way of stopping her too. This week, Salvage Squad are trying to restore a 1960s amphibious sports car. But with engine problems and a badly rusted hull to patch up, will this car boat float, whatever its colour?
Wow, what an incredibly red, shiny car.
And I'm kind of warming to it now.
It is very nice.
It is, but look at the wheels. We've got Old English white on Mercedes-Benz taxi rims there.
So, ignoring all the pretties, which I know that you like, what about mechanically? What's going on?
Well, we've been very busy here. We managed to get a new old stock carburettor on there. We've done the points, plugs, condenser, you know, your sort of full converted it to an alternator for a bit of reliability there. Rebuilt starter motor. Moving on to the Porsche 356 gearbox. We've got a new clutch.
You love your labels, don't you?
Yeah, well, that's it. And then, of course, onto the Hermes final drive, which is the one that drives the prop. That's been reconditioned, new bearings and seals. So we have been busy.
Does it work?
We haven't run it up yet.
You've done all this work. You haven't actually tried it.
No, this is the first.
You drop all these names into it, and it's got a Porsche this and a Hermes that.
Maybe all, I don't know, content. We'll see.
See, should we set fire to it then?
Yes. Mark, key?
I'm dreading this moment because the engine was in such a state.
Come on.
And again.
Is it getting any fuel? Give it a whack.
I will. Here we go. Turn it now, Mark. And again. Okay, run. Great stuff. Well, we've got a heartbeat.
She wants to swim.
I think she does. Well, I'm going to have to make an exhaust, obviously.
Oh, details.
But there's one other very grey area at the moment.
What's that?
That's the brakes.
Now, that is quite important, Lance.
Come with me.
The brakes are something we've got to get right. They're a life and death issue. They've got to work first time, straight out of the water, all wet.
There's another one of these sort of nutty boat things, and it's the lining that's the problem, because it has to be a waterproof material. I've tried all of the specialist suppliers.
Hello, I'm looking for some brakes for an Amphicar.
Exactly, and surprise, surprise, they don't have them on the shelves.
Someone out there has got the technology to make them.
Yeah.
Well, they made them once. They've got to make them again.
Well, the criteria is they've got to be waterproof, and on the first application of the brake, it's got to shed all of the water out of the
so
drum.
when you come out of the water...
Yep. Bang goes your pedal. Water's got all exit the drum, and I think these leading edges have got something peculiar about them that squeegees that.
It's unusual, isn't it?
Yeah.
Hello, Suggs.
Claire, you caught me in the library.
Got a job for you.
Listen, Claire, I'm very busy. I'm doing some extensive research.
Brakes.
Brakes? What brakes?
To Ferodo,
Ferodo? Where's that?
in the Peak District.
The countryside?
Yes, there will be cows, so sensible shoes, yeah?
Yeah, whatever.
Next morning, welly boots in the back, I was whizzing through the Peak District, the centre of a huge braking industry founded by local man Herbert Frood.
And it all started in this very shed.
From a humble shed to a whacking great factory. Even with all their history and all their robots, I wondered if Ferodo have had any experience in making brakes for boats. I spoke to their head of development, Dr. Tim Hodges.
So, Tim, would you have amphibious brakes for boaty-type cars?
Yes, Ferodo actually does have some experience of that. During the Second War, the government asked us to provide some linings for the Bren gun carriers.
Oh, yeah.
For the Normandy landings. And we used London Underground friction material.
Presumably extremely waterproof?
Yes, waterproof and very hard. We use different ingredients for each pad, and there are thousands of different pad types in our catalogue.
One of which I've got here, but this looks remarkably like a disc brake to me, Tim. No use.
Yes, what you've got here for the Amphicar is a drum brake, and that was the type of technology used in the 1960s. But don't worry, you'll be safe. We'll make something up for you.
I'll try not to.
No brakes and we're in deep water. Thankfully, the R&D laboratories mix up a secret recipe and make up some special brake shoes just for us, which is an essential part of this restoration project. A blend of chemical compounds whipped up by a giant industrial cake mixer.
It's going to be mixed up in here, then taken up through the extract and pressed and baked.
No raisins?
No raisins at all. So this is where the final product's going to come out on the rollers here.
The chocolate brownies are cooked?
They are. They're still a little bit pliable at the moment, but when we've finished them, they'll look like this, and then we'll cut them up, and there's your lining.
Are you sure they're going to work, Tim? Because Claire and Lance are going to kill me if they don't.
Of course they're going to work, Suggs. But if you've got any doubts, then fit them on the car, bring the car up here, and we'll prove it to you.
I don't know about that.
So it's back to the workshop with my prized cargo.
Wow, well that's looking very red.
It's a lot better than last time you saw it.
Really, come on, yeah.
Is it for me?
Well, yeah, I've travelled half the country to find you the finest brakes man can make.
Bespoke even.
They are indeed.
But are they going to work?
They should do, but they have told me if we have any doubts, we can take them up to the test track and try them out up at Ferodo.
Well, I think we should take them up on that.
Yeah.
This isn't an ordinary car.
It certainly isn't.
Let me get on fitting these, so we've got not much time.
OK, you get on with doing that, because I've got other things to do.
I've got things to do as well. Freshly red, the Amphicar may look finished, but it's only makeup. There's still a lot of mechanical and engine work to do.
Right, well, there's the old ones.
Yep.
So, have you got the new ones there? Let's
Yep,
check them to make sure. Fantastic, look. Absolutely spot on.
I still don't believe that wet brakes will stop this car, even with special material.
Well, these guys know what they're on. They're brake specialists, aren't they?
Ferodo may be experts, but I want these brakes tested out. So Suggs is back up to the Peak District and the Ferodo test track.
And frankly, I think it's a bit premature. They've not tuned the engine yet. Have a listen. But I have faith in my driver for the day, expert brake tester Graham Smith.
Looks like me taking my driving test, that. Oh. All right, Graham, come on. Bring out the real test driver, come on.
I think Graham's more used to testing the latest models of luxury sports cars and not our half-restored amphiboat thing.
I'm going to have words with Lance about this engine. Cheers, Lance. I also want to take this opportunity to thank you for not putting the seatbelts in, because we're testing the brakes. Mind you, by the looks of things, we're not going to be able to go fast enough to test them anyway, so...
Once we do get her going, the first task is to get the brakes wet in a giant sheep trough. But will the bodywork leak?
Gonna lift the feet.
I'm taking no chances.
So far, so good. Come on, let's give it a go then, Graham.
Let's go.
Hey! Ah! What, is that it then, Graham?
That's it. We said we've got to do it another 10 times.
10 times?
10 times, I'm afraid.
Claire, I'm getting a real whiff of conspiracy here. And that's not just Lance's exhaust, neither. Well, I got the test data back from the Ferodo track, and the computers say that the brakes work. Hooray! That's about the only thing on that car that does work, though. And I'm off now to have words with Lance. Lance, Claire, how marvellous. How you doing?
Hello.
There was a time when I thought I might never see you again.
Oh.
Well, what happened to you? What happened to me, Lance? You're trying to kill me in this flaming thing? I took this up to the test track for Odo to test the brakes.
Yep.
But no one had informed me that not only was the seat not actually attached to the car, but those lovely handmade seat belts weren't fixed to anything because they weren't even in the car.
Well, you know how a spanner works.
It stalled about 5 times. First gear wouldn't work, reverse wouldn't work, and it started leaking water. But apart from that...
That's what happens time and time again. People rush up and go, oh, the paintwork's finished. And they forget all the mucky jobs and the horrible jobs and the time-consuming stuff.
Well, I made
underneath.
this extraordinary presumption that taking it up to a test track to test the brakes would involve some of the interior being bolted to the bodywork, but hey,
Yeah.
I'm an amateur. What do I know?
Well, you're ahead of the game.
Well, listen, I'll tell you what, I'll leave you to back it down that very narrow alley, because I'm going to go off and speak to some Amphicar fanatics who hopefully haven't got it in mind to kill me.
Fantastic.
See you later.
Right, see you.
With Suggs safely out the way, the first job is with Gary the Stitch, fitting the interior, which I think should be straightforward.
Yeah, go on then.
I'm doing better than you did.
Oh.
Ah. You don't get muscles doing needlework. Oh.
Yeah?
I was putting some effort in.
What are you doing?
I'm getting there. It's going piece by piece.
Right, we'll put that up top.
While the others get the car shipshape, I've come to Dover to meet some intrepid ex-Amphicar owners. I haven't found the nutters who sank in the Straits of Gibraltar, but I have found 2 pretty good substitutes.
Most people, when travelling to the continent, take one of these. You've guessed it. On the 16th of September 1965, my research tells me 4 intrepid British eccentrics set off from Marble Arch for the Frankfurt Motor Show. Only one slight obstacle. That.
The plot to cross the channel in an Amphicar was cooked up by 2 army captains, Mike Bailey and Peter Tappenden, who fell in love with them after testing the Amphicar for the army. Rather than ferrying the car back to the manufacturers in Berlin, they had the insane idea of sailing it back instead. Tim Dill Russell, another Amphicar owner, heard of the plan and joined them for fun. I've tracked down both Mike and Tim. They've not seen each other for 38 years, so they're in for a bit of a surprise.
And they're coming straight towards you and you don't realise what the heck's happening.
Here's a gentleman you may or may not remember.
Tim Dill Russell.
Good God, Tim. Really?
Michael?
Bailey.
Yes, but they just told me you weren't here tonight.
You dirty, rotten so-and-so. God, man, that's great to see. They never told me. You never told me.
And I did recognise you. They never told
Isn't
me.
that amazing? I recognise you now.
The trip took 7.5 hours, with Tim breaking down and being towed by Mike for the last 2 miles.
They reckon it was a Force 5. It was just like it is today, you know, with the white caps. And we were going like this. And I said to Peter, what the hell are we doing here?
Suddenly dawned.
And he didn't have an answer.
What I do remember very clearly was on television that night in France.
First item on the news.
The
First
mad
item.
Englishman who'd come across.
Yeah.
We
Yes,
we actually knocked the Vietnam War into second place.
we did. We did. Yeah.
They were second
That's
item
right.
on the news
Yeah.
that night.
And all this jolly japes happened in one of the busiest shipping lanes in the world.
On one occasion, I counted the number of ships that were out there. There were 16. And of course, they had no idea we were there. They wouldn't see us on their radar at all. We had the lights going, and the horn, and the flashers going.
Well, chaps, my research tells me that a couple of fellas tried to take one of those Amphicars across the Straits of Gibraltar and got sunk by a passing boat. And this was before you took on the English Channel.
Yes. Well, that's why we did it. To prove that it could be done.
Because you're nuts.
Yes, yes.
And hopefully not be mown down.
Well,
by
Mike,
the
that's the
tankers.
sort of optimism I need. And I'm going to be test driving this Amphicar on water. I wonder, I don't trust Lance and Claire. Tim, I know you live in Spain, but Mike, would you fancy coming down and giving me a hand? Teaching me how to drive the flaming
yeah,
thing?
Yeah, it's quite a good idea. I'd like to do that. Yeah, I'd
Jolly
like to.
good.
Yeah, it really would. Yeah. Good. When do we start?
Well, we're not going across the channel,
All
I'll
right,
tell you that
okay.
much.
Leaving Dover with Mike on board, I felt at last my life was no longer in danger. And when our Amphi's shipshape, I'll happily set sail in her.
Hey, hey! Well, this is starting to look nice.
Hello.
All right there.
It's on the way. Could have done with your help a bit earlier.
I've got a terrible phobia against hard work, you know that.
Where have you been?
Claire, I've been on one of my quests, actually, to find out more of the history of this fabulous-looking car. And, in fact, I came across two guys who say they drove a car like this across the channel.
What, in the tunnel?
No, actually in the water. And apparently it's a real bugger to drive. Waves coming over the side and presumably through the bottom as well. What you're trying to... So what I thought might be a good idea, after my limited experience of driving it on land at the Ferodo test track, is to get one of these fellas down to help out.
Like give an instruction on it.
For a little bit of instruction, how to actually keep it afloat.
I've got to carry on with the plumbing of the fuel system. If you and Claire could go to the other end and there's some cables and ties and things like that to be done, can you show so? You still up for helping?
Absolutely, yeah.
OK, well, should we get on with that?
Yeah, well, I'm glad to see you got the seat belts on for the BSS test. Thanks, Lance, mate.
I'm afraid all the dirty jobs are gone.
Shucks.
Here you go. The lights are in. They just need tightening up. And don't forget, quite tight on the rubber. Don't want any leaks.
We don't, do we, Claire? Even I know that.
With all hands on deck, there was just a few finishing touches left to do, then we hurriedly set off for the boat safety test. Our licence to cruise on the river.
Got it in one piece, then?
Just about.
Is it Genevieve or Chitty Chitty Bang Bang?
I think it's the Scarlet Pimple.
We hardly had to push it at all.
We're here to meet Nick Allen from the boat safety scheme, who'd advised us earlier on exactly what we had to fix.
Well, it certainly has, yes. Yeah, you got rid of the rust.
You're the man who's going to condemn it, I presume.
I probably will.
Put it out of its misery. Great.
Probably will, yeah.
Well, let's see if it is waterproof. Nick, do your stuff.
So, has Lance attended to the details?
I can see you've done a lot of work since I last saw the
What about the fuel tanks? You're particularly concerned about that.
fuel tank. Well, much better than the last one, which was rusted through. So that's just right, just what we want. And the fuel filler is fine. The only problem is here on the vent pipe. You've got a problem here, but there's a dip in the vent pipe, and that will hold petrol, and it will negate the tank's breathing qualities, unfortunately.
Wasn't Mickey made aware of that, the chap who made the tank?
First thing he looks at, there's a problem with it. It's going to be unbelievable, this thing. I feel like I'm sitting on a big pile of manure, which has been painted a very beautiful glossy red.
Also, the fuel feed pipe isn't to the required quality that the boat safety scheme desires, which is the ISO 7840. It's a marked fuel line and it's fine for petrol cars, but it's not designed for the boat safety scheme.
Well, the only thing for it is a controlled explosion. But everyone stand back a bit. Claire, administer the dynamite.
It seems Lance has got all the car bits working beautifully, but this boat is not shipshape yet.
Well, Lance, unfortunately, I found a few problems with it, so I'm afraid I can't issue a boat safety certificate at this stage.
But with a brisk wind to starboard, Lance is still determined to prove its seaworthiness, certificate or not.
You coming in?
Lance, I don't want to put any more downers on what's been quite a difficult day. But to be perfectly honest, I just don't believe this thing will even float.
No, I'll show you that will float. Are you up for coming in? Thank you for that vote of confidence.
I'm torn between both sides. I don't think it's going to float.
I'll
But of course it'll float.
I'll rephrase that. You are coming in.
Don't forget, women and children first, Lance. Any water coming in yet?
No.
Don't speak too soon. It's just a trickle, man.
It's just a trickle.
Just a trickle?
No, it's not a trickle. It's a water feature.
It's not even fully in yet. Come on, let it go.
We're floating, look. Oh, look, we're floating, Claire.
Yeah, we're sinking as quickly as we're floating. Honestly. It's just coming in on my side like nothing else.
Well, what did I tell them? Who's got the nice dry feet?
Well, it was really going for it there on that gator where the transmission.
So, what a shame I missed out on that experience.
It floated.
Is there not a plug we can let that out?
2 minutes later, and the water feature is still flowing. With one night left before D-Day and the big launch, will Lance be able to plug the holes and make this puppy float? It's getting critical. There's still lots to do, and Lance will have to burn the midnight oil, because in the morning, his reputation is on the line. So the big day has arrived at the Putney Slipway on the River Thames. Salvage squad have restored a 1960s Amphicar back from dead. Yesterday it was a sinking ship. So, has Lance fixed the problems? And will it float?
Bravo!
Hey!
It actually runs.
Of course it runs.
It purrs. Well, I'll tell you what, Lance, out. I've got my own very experienced Amphicar driver here who actually crossed the English Channel.
You're more than welcome.
And Claire, lovely as it looks and sounds, before I get in this thing, there's a few bits and pieces I need to buy.
Shopping?
Yeah.
Let's go. Right, fenders, we need 4 to protect the paintwork.
Never mind protecting the paintwork, Claire. It's me we've got to think about. Claire, what about one of these as backup?
No, we've got a perfectly good engine of our own.
And look at this. It's got oars and everything.
We don't need it. We've got a boat.
I could be towed behind, though.
Oh, come on, let's have some water skis.
No, Claire, I don't think so.
Only now was I willing to risk my life and climb aboard.
Let's bung one of those on.
There we are for you.
No, not for me. This is for the captain.
Captain?
Right, you getting in as well, Suggs?
Well, bon voyage.
I don't want to die.
Now, where's the handbrake on that? Oh, I got it.
When was the last time we drove one of these, Mike?
1965, I think it was.
I'm very reassured.
Put the red bit on, sir. Oh, it's floating.
Oh, it's going backwards. Oh, it's not. It's bobbing. So we're afloat. We're afloat. Lance, I can't believe it. I love you.
Yeah!
Ahoy! Yeah, I always said it would work. I never had any doubt it would be this much fun.
So far, so good. But before proceeding any further, we still need our boat safety certificate. No paperwork, and we can't go through any locks legally.
Ah, there you are. Hello, Suggs. Hi.
Hello there.
I've just got to double-check a measurement here before I can give you the certificate. Yep, 5 feet. That's what I've got down, yeah. Anyway, I'm very pleased to say you're all legal now. There's your boat safety certificate.
Hallelujah!
All the jobs have been sorted out.
Never thought we'd see the day.
Thank you very much.
And
Thank
I
you.
understand you're going to go off through the lock, is
Well,
that
we're
right?
going to try.
Okay, we all need these as well. Anyway,
Thank you
I
very
hope
much.
have an enjoyable cruise this afternoon. There you go.
Turn right, do we?
Turn to the starboard.
Starboard.
Indicate
Okay.
right.
Thanks very much.
Use your nautical terms from now on.
Oh, no problem.
Skipper.
Aye, aye.
Cheerio, Suggs.
Cheers.
Bye.
This is the perfect Amphicar journey. Sailing 110 miles along the Thames to Oxford, and then driving the remaining 58 miles by road to Upton upon Severn. This was the first of many locks as we headed west for Worcestershire. And to my surprising glee, Mike safely steered us until I couldn't stop Claire from having a go.
The best thing about this is the way it makes everyone smile.
It does make everybody
We've made
smile.
everyone smile along this riverbank today. It's never going to work. Oh.
Yeah, well done.
Hey!
Back on land, though, our troubles are far from over.
And again.
Why me?
Oi, if you scratch the paintwork, you'll scratch the paintwork.
Don't.
I'm disarming you.
Hold me back. Far be it for me to make myself look any more foolish than I already do in this programme. But, do we have any gas?
A simple engineering solution to a simple problem.
We know what it is, don't we?
There's a lack of fuel.
Yeah.
Didn't I say that?
Yeah.
Didn't I say an hour ago it's lack of fuel?
No, Mike, you didn't say that.
How much fuel's in it?
No, I suggested we might check.
Well, I don't think there's much in it.
Happens to the best of us.
Back on the road. saga of getting this car fixed up is over. Let's just hope he appreciates it. Way!
And to add a little spice to the occasion, I've set up a fake interview with local rescue organisation SARA to surprise our owner, David Chapman.
Rescue Association. That's what I can, yeah.
The most flooded town in England.
That's right, yes.
Well, I think an Amphicar will be very useful for SARA.
Oh, look at this. Excellent. You've done it. Excellent, guys. Doesn't that look stunning? What a beautiful looking thing. And out we go.
Land ahoy!
Land ahoy!
Works in the water and on the land.
Absolutely. Thanks, Claire. Thanks for all your efforts as well.
It's the most fun.
It is the most fun ever, isn't it? It's the most fun you can have with a charm-powered engine.
I love this thing. I've hated this thing, but it's great fun.
No, I think we should go for a splash. Okay.
Tally ho!
Tally ho!
Land ahoy!
Here we go into the wild blue yonder.
Whoa! There you go.
Excellent. Very good.
And maybe in years to come, when we're having brandy and cigars, Claire, we'll reflect on it as a beautiful, beautiful thing, which it obviously is.
It will, but I think it'll be the brandy and the cigars that are causing us to think that.
Next Monday at 8, the squad restores a combine harvester, and you can always visit the website at channel4.com/science. And more heavy metal next on 4 with a new series celebrating those 19th century men of iron.